Today we're talking about The Simpsons Season 6, Episode 13, and Maggie Makes 3. Our episode begins with Marge saying it's time to turn the TV off because it's family time. Apparently, Homer promised one night of family time a week. She sets a 1-hour timer, which seems a bit much, especially considering there doesn't seem to be anything in the way of planned activities. As such, they just start by sitting on the couch and floor in silence. Lisa suggests they look at the photo album. I'm not usually one for flashback episodes, but in this case I'll make an exception. I don't care what happened to the characters before, I'm interested in what's happening to them now. As a viewer, their lives begin at episode 1. Let's keep it moving forward, people, alright? Lisa asks why there aren't any pictures of Maggie in the photo book, at which point Homer begins to tell a tale of 2 years ago before Maggie was even born. Cue harp sound to indicate that we're going back in time. There's a Die Hard-esque beginning to the story until Marge cuts in and asks him to tell the story right. Mr. Smithers hands Carl, Lenny, and Homer their checks, and Homer celebrates being out of debt. Now that his bills are paid off, he says he can quit this job. Lenny points out that he still needs some way to make a living, to which Homer reassures him that he's got a plan figured out. Homer then taunts Mr. Burns, enjoying his time as an employee who has just quit, including such blatant disregard for social niceties as to set a drink on Mr. Burns' desk without a coaster. He truly is unhinged. Homer then rides a tiny car out and literally burns the bridge behind him, which is a good joke. Goodbye, back-breaking, mind-numbing work forever, he says. Really tempting fate at this point, isn't he? There's a fake-out with his dream of paradise, which turns out to actually be working at a bowling alley. Homer announces his plans to his family, and Bart and Lisa are surprisingly supportive. Lisa says, I think it's romantic, throwing off the shackles of the workaday world and following a dream, of sorts. Marge is worried about the lower salary and if they'll be able to get by on it. They have a romantic date, dinner at Krusty Burger, and a walk on the beach. Homer tempts fate again, saying, everything in our lives is finally perfectly balanced. I hope things stay exactly like this forever. Back in the present, Homer then explains the process of impregnation. I guess he's more of a visual teacher. Homer almost sits on Maggie and then continues his story. We see Homer working his dream job for several weeks in bowling alley bliss. We also learn the extremely intricate process bowling pins go through after being knocked down. He summarizes his time there as, I was in heaven. If horse racing is the sport of kings, then surely bowling is a very good sport as well. Marge gets the official diagnosis from her doctor, and she's worried about how they're going to be able to afford it with Homer's new job. Marge finally goes to tell Homer, and he's praying. It would be a more touching and moving prayer if it didn't feel so on the nose and shoehorned in for the plot. That at the very moment Marge is about to tell him she's pregnant, he's praying, something we rarely see him do if memory serves. And to top it off, he's praying in thanks for things being just the way they are. It'd feel less contrived if Marge simply overheard him praying before she entered the room. The prayer goes as follows, in case you were curious. Dear Lord, the gods have been good to me and I am thankful. For the first time in my life, everything is absolutely perfect just the way it is. So here's the deal. You freeze everything as it is, and I won't ask for anything more. If that is okay, please give me absolutely no sign. Okay, deal. In gratitude, I present you this offering of cookies and milk. If you want me to eat them for you, give me no sign. Thy will be done. Marge is trying to figure out how to tell Homer just the right way at just the right time, discussing the issues with her sisters Patty and Selma. After learning that this news will likely upset Homer, they clearly want to tell him, but Marge makes them promise not to. As a loophole, they proceed to call the 2 biggest gossips listed in the phone book and tell them that Marge is pregnant. Homer walks out of the bowling alley and is talking to himself about another perfect day in his perfect life. Chief Wiggum pulls up, congratulates him, and takes off. Apu then congratulates him, and since both Apu and Chief Wiggum didn't say pregnant directly but talked around it, saying, that's nice work, Homer, and the little bundle of joy, respectively, Homer doesn't seem to be picking up on it. In both cases, Homer incorrectly assumes they're referring to his job, in that he's doing good work and making a little bundle, but he reassures Apu he's not in it for the money. Moe, with his usual tact, then spills the beans by saying it directly, but Homer still doesn't get it, still thinking people are talking about him working at the bowling alley. The whole female population of the town is throwing Marge a surprise baby shower, which worries Marge because Homer is coming home soon. Homer shows up and is very slow on the uptake. He still hasn't figured it out. Then Maude Flanders says congrats on the new job, which of course is what causes him to realize that Marge is pregnant. He yells to the heavens in despondence and then runs away screaming. We then see flashbacks to both times Homer ran away screaming previously when Marge told him that she was pregnant. Back in the main Maggie story flashback, and Homer isn't taking it well, saying that all their financial plans are ruined and how they're doomed. Marge points out that he's been working hard at the bowling alley and should ask for a raise. Homer agrees and says he's never been good enough at a job to deserve a raise, but he surely does this time. Al, his boss, says he doesn't have the money because the alley isn't bringing in enough business. Homer then asks if he could get a raise if he triples the alley's business. He then knuckles down to study how to actually do that, which eventually devolves into just staring at a bowling ball. He then goes with the foolproof strategy of shooting a gun and yelling bowling by the alley. Lisa asks Marge to make Homer tell the story right, assuming this is one of the made-up scenes like previous derailments. Marge disappointedly reassures her that this is actually what happened. Homer is sad after his marketing stunt only attracted a record number of police and fire officials, but not many stayed after to bowl. Everyone at the bowling alley is sad to see him go and tell him about what a great job he did. He gets a going-away present of a bowling jacket. Everyone's sad once he leaves, but cheers themselves up with, can you guess what they do? If you guessed bowling, you're correct. Good job. I needed more money to support my growing family, and there was only one place in town that a man like me could make it, Homer says. Acid rain melts his jacket on his walk back to his old job. Then he is literally forced to crawl back, going through a doggy door on the way. Mr. Burns explains that as punishment for his desertion and per company policy apparently, he has been given a demotivational plaque to, quote, break what's left of your spirit. Honestly, it's pretty sad looking at Homer staring at his plaque having lost his dream job and crawled back to a job he hates, all to support his family. I've never been so miserable in all my life, but I can't take it out on Marge and the kids. I've got to carry the burden all by myself, Homer says to himself outside his front door. This lasts all of about 5 seconds before he cracks and says, I hate my job, I hate my life, and ever since I found out about this baby, there's been nothing but bad luck. To which Marge replies that her contraction started an hour ago. I love the implied joke here of Marge starting to casually mention she's going into labor when Homer first asked her how she was doing, before he immediately lost it. Homer's doing a pretty poor job of supporting Marge while she's giving birth, basically saying, oh boy, another mouth to feed. The doctor congratulates Homer because Marge has apparently chopped a liver. While doing the traditional thumbs up to celebrate the birth of a new baby, little Maggie grabs his thumb. Homer is then really sweet and excited about their new kid. Homer, back in the present, says that he loved her from the start, to which Bart asks, why no pictures then? Oh, there are pictures. I keep them where I need the most cheering up. The next few frames show pictures of Maggie scattered across Homer's wall at work, ending on the don't forget you're here forever sign, which now says, do it for her. Even on rewatch and knowing this ending is coming up, it still gets me, man. This ending is what makes this a good and tear-jerking episode. A touching moment and reminder of the tremendous sacrifice parents make for their kids. What at one point seemed impossible or soul-crushing is made at least the smallest bit lighter when its purpose is clear. This earlier version of Homer, as it's hard to maintain a consistent character across 37 seasons of a show, is probably my favorite. He's dumb but in a more innocent way. He's earnest and his obliviousness only seems to thwart him as opposed to dragging his family down with him. When he views his life as perfect, he doesn't take it for granted and is truly grateful for it. He works hard for what he wants and is held back by his own incompetence, not laziness or apathy. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of the episode is the what could have been. A dark interpretation would be that Maggie ruined their lives, or at least Homer's, as he spends the entire episode prior to learning of Marge's pregnancy happy about his life. The implication being that but for Maggie, Homer would still be living and thriving at the bowling alley. The real shame here being the lost excellence. Homer was a great bowling alley employee, but because of circumstance is instead forced to take a higher paying job that he barely tries at. It's tough to see someone give up something they love and are good at just because of circumstance. That said, this episode is still a touching reminder of parental sacrifice and love. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.